Welcome to That's Based. Happy Monday. I'm your host, as always, Caleb Salvatore, reporting from somewhere underground. We're laughing our way through the end of days. Brought to you by Outlaw Streamers and our friends over at Blood of Tyrants Wines, where you can head over to drinkbloodofTyrants.com with the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show, to save yourself 10% off your order at the checkout. They have red and white wine along with the energy drink, the Liquid Freedom energy drink. DrinkbloodofTyrants.com with the promo code BASED, B-A-S-E-D, like the title of the show, to save yourself 10% off your order at the checkout. Support the brands that support this show. They make it possible for me to come on here and run my mouth 3 times a week. You should thank them for that. Well, I told you we were probably not going to have a Monday show, and that is the only lie I'm going to tell all week. Everything else you're going to hear is straight from the horse's mouth, the real McCoy. I told you we wouldn't have a Monday show. We're not doing unsolicited advice today. It's a little bit different of a show. We're going to have, we didn't have time to do an unsolicited advice show because Mia would have to do the research and get us both in here. Family in town, long story. So we're rolling with this. But I think this is a good substitute. So Saturday, I had the pleasure of attending a meeting that's held in Omaha, in my hometown, once a month. I'd never been there before. I think I will go back. It was put on by a group called the Free Speech Society. And the Free Speech Society meets once a month on Saturday mornings, and I was the youngest person in the room by probably 15 to 20 years, which is fine. I've always been an old soul. Not a problem there, because nobody else my age is up at 8:30 in the morning on a Saturday. Not to go hang out in a bank lobby and talk about politics. But the reason I went this Saturday was because they had free coffee and donuts, and I'm poor. No, I'm kidding. The reason I went this Saturday is because my favorite a politician who not only am I a real big fan of, but she's a real big fan of me. And you know what a big fan I am of her if you've been listening to the show for the last couple of weeks, maybe the last month or so. None other than Omaha Mayor Jean Stothert decided to drop by and grace us with her presence. It was Jean Stothert and Jasmine Harris, who is the progressive Democrat perennial candidate that's running, who seems like a nice enough lady, but doesn't have a snowball's chance in hell at winning. So both of them came in, and Harris had to be, I think she was going over to the Coach Sandusky, Tim Walz rally later on in the day that was being held in town. So she couldn't stay for the whole thing, or it was a commitment with her kids. I don't remember what it was, but she couldn't stay for the whole thing. So she had a hard stop time. She went up and did her spiel, took some questions. And one of the big things about Jasmine Harris, and I'm not going to fixate on her too much in this show, but one of the big things about Jasmine Harris was she mentioned a light rail, that Denver got a light rail about 20 years ago, and Omaha elected not to do it. And look at where they are and look at where we are. We could be like Denver. And, you know, I'm a guest in this place. I don't want to go somewhere and make an ass out of myself and get banned, especially because I wasn't there for Miss Harris. I didn't have questions for someone who has about as good of a chance of being mayor as I do. And my name's not even on the ballot. So I didn't have any questions. I didn't want to get thrown out for her. See, again, seemed like a nice lady. Totally fine. Disagreement on policy. It is what it is. But she brought up a light rail. And I so badly wanted to raise my hand and take this microphone and go, so when's the last time you've been to Denver? Because I used to go a lot for work, for comedy. And let me tell you, I'm good. I can come back as someone who has survived that city multiple times and tell you that hard pass. I don't want to be Denver. I don't want to be Denver. I remember we got done at a show. The hilarious part about this. So I go into this place. It's a banquet dinner. There's 300 and some people in there. And it's a fundraiser for homeless people. It's a fundraiser for homeless people. And of course, they're not going to give me free food as the talent. Fine, whatever. They're paying me what we agreed upon. It is what it is. But I'm looking at the menu, and it's like $50 for a salad at this place. But it's a bunch of rich white liberals, because it's Denver. There's no conservatives left in town. And I go on stage. It's a homeless fundraiser. We're raising money to help feed the homeless. While there's a homeless encampment right outside of the door. Because that's Denver. I mean, totally taken over. Entire city blocks by encampments. And you've got these people in there, these white limousine liberals, ordering $75 vegan gyros, while there's literal homeless people right outside that they would call the police on in a heartbeat if they even approached them. And I roasted the shit out of them for it for the first 5 minutes. The whole crowd. And they were laughing at it. And I'm like, no, this isn't a joke. I'm just criticizing you. What big of hypocrites you guys are. But anyway, so no, I do not want to be like Denver. I do not want to be in a titty. So, of course, I didn't order food there. I went to Chiba Hut, which is great. Me and the people that were on the show, we walked to Chiba Hut, and I was almost stabbed walking through these homeless encampments. I had people try to accost me into a van so I could look at a boa constrictor. I don't know if that was figurative or if it was an actual snake. Either way, I didn't want to see it. I mean, I'm good. That's a scary city, man. That's a scary city, Denver. I don't want to be like Denver. So, and she also mentioned a train that goes from Omaha to Lincoln. I mean, guys, the streetcar that everyone's so upset about is going to cost $450 million. How are you going to get one from Omaha to Lincoln without bankrupting the city? It's not going to happen. So I would love it. I would love the idea of it. Believe me, I love the idea of getting on a train, going to Lincoln, being able to get as blackout drunk as I wanted at a Nebraska tailgate, and then going home without having to worry, without having to worry about how am I going to drive? Do I need to stay the night here? Like, I don't want to do any of that. I would love to do that, but not at the expense of my property tax quadrupling, So I'm good. I'll drive. I'll do what everybody does and wait till the liquor wears off by the end of the fourth quarter. Start early and then chill, So that's my plan. But no, so anyway, on to the main course. So Miss Harris had to leave, and Gene Stothert came in. Gene Stothert walks into the room, and of course there's no recording, nothing like that allowed. There was a guy there with a camera who they had given permission, professional photographer, friend of the show, was there with a camera, and they allowed him to show up and take pictures, but absolutely no recording, anything like that. And that, from what I've been told, from people that have put on events with her, from what I've been told, that appears to be commonplace for her. That's common practice for her to not allow recording. Why? I don't know. I don't know what she's worried about getting out there in these speeches that are clearly rehearsed and robotic. I don't know what Grandma Pothole has going on. But I just, whatever. Again, not my venue, not my organization. I even threw a $5 bill in their little donation jar. I'm trying to be friendly and not make a bunch of waves, right? Now, I could have been a real dick. At this thing, but I'm not, because I want to conduct, because at this point, I understand that my actions and the things that come out of my mouth, specifically pertaining to this race, have become representative of more than just me, whether people like that or not. So I'm trying to be on my best behavior. I really am. If you've noticed, I've really cut back on my use of slurs and profanity, not just because of this race, but because I don't think they're necessary. I am trying to have a little bit more of a professional demeanor when I come on air. So she comes in. 4 of us are pointed out by security or whatever this guy is. 4 of us are pointed out to the folks running the thing. And at least in our direction. Maybe he wasn't pointing directly at us. I don't know. That's how I interpreted it. And in my opinion, that was them going, okay, these are the problem children. And they told that to the guys that ran the show, to their credit, two of us were allowed to ask questions. So I don't think it was a, hey, shut these guys up, don't let them ask. I think it was a be cautious, because when the two of us that were pointed out got a chance to ask our question, they hovered over us like the mob, which they did to nobody else that I saw. I'm talking 6 inches over my shoulder, breathing down my neck. So I got my opportunity to ask Mayor Stothert, St. Louis Stothert, a question. And I was respectful. Listen, you guys know me. I'm kind of an asshole. I could have taken that a number of ways that just would have made you guys would have thought it was funny. People on social media would have thought it was funny. Everyone in the room and everyone, the silent majority of folks that vote would have thought I was a giant asshole. So I didn't do that. I didn't go in there to be a shock jock. I went in there. I took my comedian and talk show host hat off, and I went in there to ask a serious question as a concerned citizen. A fair question, nonetheless. That a lot of people, if they knew what I know, what I'm about to tell you, would have this same question on their mind. So everybody else that got to ask Grandma Pothole a question, very friendly to him. Waved at him. Thank you, very, very friendly, happy demeanor. The moment I got the microphone, let me tell you guys, I have never in my entire life had somebody, before I even said a word, had somebody look at me with such disdain for me as a human being. Such hatred in their eyes. I didn't think somebody was capable of experiencing. I mean, it was, you hear these stories on YouTube and TikTok and Reddit and wherever you get your media, those paranormal podcasts where people will talk about meeting someone that they think was a demon or was possessed or devoid of a soul, or even the devil himself. And there's never any concrete evidence to it. They never obviously tell you they're the devil. But it's a feeling you can't explain. And it's a feeling you've never felt before. It's a vibe, if you will. Now, my vibes are usually pretty good. It's not based in science, but I've had a number of times. I went to Millard South during the shooting there in 2011. And I remember I told a friend of mine, we got to get out of here. Something bad's about to happen. Not 30 seconds later, the guy comes on the radio and says, hey, everybody out of here, there's been a shooting. When my dog died, I just knew that was going to be the day. She didn't act any different. I just knew that was going to be the day. My first date with my wife, 30 seconds in or 10 minutes into the first date, it pops in my head, you're done with the dating thing, you're going to marry her. I've had just random feelings, some good and some bad, throughout my life that I can't explain, but they've been right every single time. And let me tell you guys, that woman disturbs my peace. I have never felt anything like I have or excuse me, I've never felt anything like I did in that setting. She radiates dread. I mean, the vibe I get from looking her in the eye is, I said on the show about the debate, I think on Wednesday, that you get the vibe of a bitchy stepmother. That's the vibe on television and radio and you know, and the internet. That's not the vibe in person when she's staring down at you. Believe me. I've been somewhat open about some of the stuff I dealt with growing up, and that's not just an angry mother. I know the difference. The vibe she puts off, in my opinion, is someone who is devoid of a soul. I don't know any other way to describe it because I've never felt that way in my life around anybody. So I get to ask my question, and let me tell you, with the razor blades being stared through me, I've bombed comedy sets in front of 250 people. Every joke failed. And I was not as uncomfortable in those moments as I was right there holding that microphone with her. I took a second because I thought I was going to swallow my tongue. Now, I've done debate. I've done all that. It's fine. I don't have a problem putting people on the spot. But there was just this sense of evil, of hatred in the room that took me back. I could feel it before the question even got to me. And I said the St. Michael prayer before it was my turn to ask the question. And thank God I did. It relaxed me, but obviously not enough. But so eventually it gets to me. I ask my question. I even said, thank you for coming today. Not a nod, nothing. Just laser beams through my soul. Wasn't even staring into my eyes. She was staring into my soul when I asked this question. So I said, thank you for coming in today. With the taxes and alleged economic benefits, you know, pros and cons aside of the streetcar, because she had, of course, just done a whole spiel about how great the streetcar was. 68% of Omahans, per the most recent poll I've seen, are against the streetcar. And the last time I checked, we still live in a representative democracy. So with that said, how do yourself and the city council justify directly ignoring the wishes of the majority of the people in this city? A couple people even clapped for me. Not the whole room. Got a couple. People liked it. I was not confronted. Now, could I have said, it was the last time I checked, maybe a little too far? Yeah. But I'm sorry. Anyone who asks this question, or this woman, anything that's remotely critical of her, gets chastised. So I get to fight back a little bit here. I'm going to be a little snotty when I do it. I'm working on being better, right? I didn't say I was going to be totally polished, right? So I ask her this question, and I shit you not, but I'm not kidding. Not only did she yell at me, she wagged her finger at me. She called me a liar, said those numbers are not real. And then, now here's the problem with this setting, with this public forum setting. Because after that, she went on to say that she's seen numerous polls that show that Omahans are a majority in favor of the streetcar. Of course, none of these are public. If you Google streetcar polls, the one I'm talking about is the only one you can find. So that's the problem with this form, is I could have stopped her right there and said, okay, where are these polls? Let's see them. Oh, your internal polling? The internal polling that you guys intentionally fleece the words of to make it seem more appealing, and you target demographics that are more likely to be in favor of it. I don't count that. I'm counting the only public poll we have right now. Maybe it's off. Maybe it's not. I don't know. But that's the only poll we have. So right now, her poll numbers are trust me, bro. Because that's my thing, and I've said this before. We live in a representative democracy. Even if the streetcar is going to be this great economic boon, which it's not, but even if it were, if we don't want it, you don't do it. We elected you to represent our interests. And she said that. She said that in her spiel before we got to questioning, that there have been a number of projects that weren't necessarily popular, but we went ahead and did them. So sometimes, and I quote, so I'm paraphrasing, but this is more or less what she said, you just have to go ahead and do it anyway, even if people in your district don't want it. Sorry, that's not how this country works. Thank you, Comrade Stothert. That's not how it works. If we don't want it, you don't do it. I don't know why that's such a hard concept. And that's what happens when someone's in power for so long. They think they're God and they can do whatever the hell they want because they've been unchecked forever. That woman has had the most political luck. She's not a good candidate. There's nothing appealing about her. I mean, when you look at like mainstream politicians, Trump, Clinton, Obama, even someone like an AOC, even if I don't necessarily agree with all of those people, I can see the appeal to every last one of them that people would have. There is nothing appealing about her. She is Dollar Tree Hillary Clinton. Dollar store Hillary Clinton. There is nothing appealing about a mean, bitter old woman that talks to you like a scolding stepmother if you dare to question her authority. She is the most politically... She's not this powerhouse that she claims to be. She's not. She is the most politically lucky candidate in the history of the city. When she ran in 2013, she ran against Jim Suttle, who was an unmitigated disaster. Everybody hated him. He had to go. Unpopular. Total wreck. We elected her, and... you know, of course, I mean, you could have run Mickey Mouse against Jim Suttle and he would have won. So we elected her, and one of the first things she did was expand his extremely unpopular restaurant tax that she ran on repealing. But I digress. I've mentioned that 100 times. 4 years later, she runs against this Democrat state senator named Heath Mello. And everybody thinks Heath, because the streetcar was a hot issue, everybody thinks Heath Mello is a legit contender. And he was. He was. He even had, you had Bernie Sanders coming here to campaign for him. I mean, the National Democrats were pouring money into this guy, Heath Mello. He was a formidable candidate. But then the Democrats did what the Democrats do, because they eat their own and they have a purity test. They found out that while Heath Mello was a Democrat, he was a pro-life Democrat. And we can't have that. We can't have that. So we got beat by like 9 or 10 points. 2021 rolls around. She runs for a third term. It's right after COVID. We're still kind of in COVID because it's like April of 2021. She gets put up against, I mean, you have a bunch of people with no funding and no chance in hell at beating her. They all run against her. And she gets this paper candidate up in the general with no funding, can't really campaign because you're still in COVID, and she dog walks him. So she's had just 3 train wrecks of opponents that she's ran against. And the reason she's getting so angry right now, make no mistake, is because she feels the walls closing in on her. This is the first time she has had a real challenge, a real candidate with real support, with a real coalition behind him, and Mike McDonald. Look at the people that have associated themselves with Mike McDonald. Look at the people that have endorsed him. Julie Slama, conservative Republican state senator. Tony Connor, president of the Nebraska Fraternal Police Officers Association. Dan Osborne. I mean, you've got 2 different mayors. Mike Fahey, who's a Democrat. You got PJ Morgan. I mean, 2 different former mayors. The coalition that this guy's built. This is very similar to what Donald Trump built in the 2024 election. I like to think of myself as the Joe Rogan of that collision. But it is. It's very similar to what Donald Trump built in that 2024 election against Kamala Harris. It's people from all sides, all walks of life, all races, religions, genders, both genders. There's only two. And he's a populist. He's a populist he's a populist Republican with union backing, and she is terrified of that. Absolutely petrified of that. Because the power structure is being threatened for the first time in her life, in her career. Remember what I told you when we were talking about Donald Trump and in 2024, desperate people do desperate things. And they do stupid things. The more she feels like the walls are closing in, the more desperate they're going to get. And all those people I just listed, props to them for sticking their neck out, because that is absolutely risky. But I'm going to tell you right now, of all the people that have stuck their neck out against her, we're the only ones with no institutional support. None. She knows who we are. We're going to continue to be a thorn in her side. I've seen the audio. No, we're growing in Omaha, specifically during this campaign season. So people are catching on. I've seen the demographics for the listens. People are catching on. And I've had people come up to me and tell me that they agree with everything I'm saying about this. Complete strangers walking up to me. I was just listening to you. So it's growing locally. We're playing a role in this. And we're also the easiest target. So if you want to make us a tougher target, share us around with your friends so you can grow our voice. Because the only way I can defend myself right now is honestly to be as loud as possible. To make as much noise as I possibly can. To prevent some type of weird political hatchet job on me. That's it. You know? And let me tell you another thing. I've sat down with a number of current and former employees of this woman. People who know her. The things I have learned would repulse some of you. Here's the thing, though. One thing they all have in common. Well, two things. Well, I guess you can kind of mix them. None of these people will come on the record. None of them. Now, if this was one idiot that reached out to me and was like, oh, I worked for Stothert, it could be an ex-employee with an axe to grind, and I'd take it with a grain of salt. But I have heard from a number of people associated with her some stories that I can't validate, so I'm not going to run with them because unlike her, I have integrity, right? But let me tell you, the thing that stuck out the most to me about this woman was the amount of people who asked me, please keep my name anonymous. Some of them even straight up said, don't go public with that because I'm the only one that was said to and it'll be easily tracked back to me. The culture of fear and intimidation that appears to be coming out of that office should disturb anyone who is on the fence about this woman. The amount of people scared. They're not all liars, guys. They're not all coming forward because they're mad and they want to drag her through the mud. There's some fire to this smoke. Now, I'm not going to engage in he said, she said. I would rather tear her down for her horrible policies. So I'm not going to. I can only go off of my personal experience and cold hard facts. But I am telling you right now, and I'll tell you from my experience, The woman is scary. The woman is scary. And the fact that everyone I've spoken to is terrified of anything getting tracked back to them, even when they don't work for her anymore, backs up the vibe I got on Saturday morning. Ask yourself, why on earth would somebody who does not work for her anymore be so concerned about something getting tracked back to them? And that wasn't one person. Why? What could she possibly? She can't fire you. That's someone who, in my opinion, is concerned about retaliation beyond that of an employer-employee relationship. That's how that appears to me. If you've got another theory about why all these people don't want their names used and won't come forward and come on the show, you tell me. You tell me. I'm not going anywhere, though. I mean, y'all want to martyr me? Let's do it. I'm going to run on here, and I'm going to run my mouth until this election is over. And you know what? If she wins, I'll run my mouth for the next 4 years. We will be the insurgent radio. I don't care. You know? Here's the thing. I talked about Jasmine Harris speaking before Stothert. If you put Jasmine Harris and Gene Stothert's political views, not specific like city issues, just political views, economic, social, etc., side by side on a chart, I'd probably agree with Stothert more. I guarantee you I would. I'd probably disagree with Jasmine Harris on 80 to 90% of the issues. But I don't get that vibe from her. I don't get the vibe of, this is a bad person. I need to stay away from you. I've been adjacent to politics a long time, man. Never been in it like this. Never been in the thick of it in the battlefield. But I've been adjacent to it for years, right? I've dealt with sleazy politicians, campaign managers, etc. There's a difference between I don't trust this guy and you're rotted to the core. I didn't get the vibe that Stothert was someone I couldn't trust. I got a darker vibe from her Saturday morning. Just dread that I've never felt before. And I had to go to church right after. It was that kind of feeling. That was the feeling I got from Mayor Stothert. Now, the yelling and the finger wagging and the calling me a liar, that's a side note. I think that just speaks to how she... I'm not talking about what was said. I'm talking about what wasn't said. What didn't need to be said. The yelling and the finger wagging, that's not... I'm not special. That wasn't exclusive to me. There are a number of people that caught that if they, dared question Dollar Tree or Dollar Store Hillary Clinton and any of her policies. There's something deeper there, man. That's I don't know what it is. I can't describe it. I can't describe it. It's not something that can be touched or held or anything like that. But steer clear of that woman. That's bad news. That's bad news. We've got a couple of things we're working to verify in the coming weeks here prior to the election. That if and when I can verify them, we will roll with them. But again, I have journalistic integrity. I will tell you what has been... I will tell you things I can prove as an objective fact. And I will tell you opinions of mine, feelings, vibes I get. But I'm not going to come out here, even if it's somebody I don't like, and claim something against them. I'm even hesitant to dabble in he said, she said. And I could very easily do that. But I'm going to try to verify. I'm going to dig a little deeper. I'm going to see if we can get one of these people to come on the air. And I don't blame any of these people, because here's the thing, man. These are people that they're working normal jobs and they got families and lives and shit, and they don't want to be drugged back into this. They don't want to be terrorized. But it's like I said, the fact that you've got so many people who are afraid of finding out that afraid of a former employer finding out that they said something about him. Why? There's a difference. I mean, if they're going out telling, secrets and stuff like that, about financial, that would be different. But these are just personal stories about what a nightmare she is to be around. And when I say nightmare, I mean nightmare, man. Total train wreck. But I met the devil on Saturday, figuratively speaking. I don't think she's the literal devil, but there's something there. There's something there. I hope they have a good exorcist at that credit union we all said. Oh boy. Anyway, that has been our show. We will see you guys on Wednesday for WTF Wednesdays. We're going to be talking space aliens and ghosts and all kinds of fun stuff, taking a break from this serious political war that we're in right now, that I have been thrust into the middle of. Oh, and by the way, I got a comment asking if I went full MAGA now, because I shared a picture from a Mike McDonald event that I was at that Allie French took of the two of us. I'm not anything. I'm me, bitch. I'm not libertarian. I'm not MAGA. I have principles that I believe in. I don't affiliate myself with any of those groups. Allie's a friend of mine. We started on this network together. We bump into each other at things like that. We have a shared interest. This is, again, speaks to the coalition that Mike has formed. We have a shared interest in ousting Gene Stothert. We probably don't agree on every issue, and that's fine. I don't want people to agree with me on every issue. But stop trying to put me in a box. You should know you can't do that by now. Anyone who actually listens to this show would tell you I'm not MAGA. I'm certainly not a liberal. But I've been openly critical of a lot of MAGA policies, especially recently. We have a whole segment called Caleb Holds Up the Mirror where I criticize Republicans and conservatives. I don't think that's MAGA. And I'll tell you guys what. I'll tell you one more thing before I get out of here. I'll give credit to the MAGA movement because I've seen them split with Trump and split with this administration on a number of issues, which tells me that it's the conspiracies about it being a cult of personality are simply untrue. This is about far more. The MAGA movement to these people is about more than just one man. It's a living, breathing organism with thoughts and opinions of its own. And the people that have tried to oversimplify it as just this group that follows this guy around and does, no, that's what the Democrats do. But they do it with the party, not with a person. I think MAGA is the most independent mainstream political movement in all of our lifetimes, based on what I've observed over the last 4 months. That's all I'll say. Oh, and I've gotten a few messages. I'll leave it at this. We have rattled the cages of some folks that are powerful locally. That's the key word there, is locally. Because we're no longer messing with, Biden and AOC. Right? The difference between criticizing local politicians and local power players versus national, like, the president or a senator or the CEO at Chase or Jay-Z, who all have millions of people running their mouths and thousands of shows that are doing this, attacking them in a similar method to we are. The difference when you go after local people that have never had to deal with the types of attacks that we're giving them, because they've only ever had to navigate the radio and television, who have to play by a certain standard of corporate rules. We don't. We've aggravated a number of power players. I've gotten some messages that I'm not going to show you guys here. I've been in communication with an attorney just to protect myself. And if we have to go after anybody else, I'll be straight with you. Mia and I, we're doing fine. We don't have the resources to take these people on. Not by ourselves, we don't. Like I said, all these other people that have come out against them, they're doing this with institutional support. What we're doing, and credits to them, because they're risking, in a way, sometimes more than we are. They're risking careers and opportunity, all kinds of stuff, right? We're the only ones that are grassroots, though. We have no backing, man. No one is coming to our rescue if it starts to heat up over here. The only thing we've got is you guys. Share the show around. Tell everybody you know. Wake people up to the monstrosity that's going on in this city. That's how we defend ourselves. That's how we win. Now, unfortunately, like I said, I don't have the resources to fight back against these people the way some of the others do. Fortunately, the best chance I have happens to be the thing I'm best at, which is running my mouth and making a bunch of noise. That's my best weapon right here. So it's not all, doom and gloom. But we do need you guys' support. We do need you guys to when these people are going to public forums like the one I was at, when these people are out and about, we need you guys to respectfully and peacefully, and I want to emphasize those words. We are never going to encourage violence here on this show because that's not what we do. We're not the left. But we need you guys to respectfully and peacefully go out and call these people out on their BS. That's what this is going to take. It's St. Patrick's Day today. And St. Patrick, a lot of people, depends on who you ask. Catholics are split. Historians are split on whether or not, because the legend is that St. Patrick ran the snakes out of Ireland. Now, some people take that at face value and think it were literal snakes. I don't know if snakes have ever been able to inhabit Ireland based on its climate. A lot of people, and there's a growing belief, specifically among Christians and Catholics, a lot of people believe that the word snakes is metaphorical for corruption and evil. So let's all use our voices today on this St. Patrick's Day. And before you go to the bar and black out on a Monday like the degenerates that I know you are, Let's use our voices and use our skills and use our concerns to run the evil and corruption out of this city. We can be a movement. We don't have to be a bunch of people that sit around listening to some guy scream into a microphone. That doesn't have to be all it is. We can spark actual change. If you can go to her social media accounts and question her nonsense when they're giving public events, don't show up at people's houses, don't harass people, don't break the law. But public events where she's speaking, we should have 20 people there to question her. Let's hold our elected officials accountable since they don't want to be held accountable. Let's stop putting these demons into office. That's been our show. We'll see you on Wednesday. Cheat on your taxes, not your spouse, and stay based.